Hi everyone, welcome back. This is my attempt at a Christmas sweater and it says love. And I wanted to wish you the very best holiday and get into a new topic. So this one is going to be talking about the multidimensionality in action. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying this download came to me in more depth. I had, it always starts with some kind of cannabis, so I'm going to start there. I had gotten this while I was in Ojai on the girls trip I told you guys about last week. I got this like powder cannabis that you can mix into tea. So I took about 5 milligrams in my tea on this particular day, and thinking that, it may not do anything, and I wasn't really like planning to go deep at all, but I was like doing stuff around the house, and at the time I was listening to the Astrology Hub 2023 forecast. And, as I had started listening to that forecast, my mind was digesting everything, and, whatever, it is a forecast. And I do my best to assimilate astrology, but it's really through the mind. So, as this cannabis or CBD tea started to kick in, I noticed that I changed drastically. So what happened is that all of a sudden, I went from digesting this 2023 forecast with my mind to feeling into what was being spoken about. And each commentator that they had on there, just the depth of insight was like overwhelming to my system. And there I'm sitting there thinking, like, just 5 minutes before, it was just, and I hate to say it like this, but it was like, want, like it was me hearing what they're saying about the forecast for the year, but not getting the multidimensionality of what they're saying. So that was like my first indication that, wait a minute, but the words are the same, because I was listening to it before the tea started to do its magic. So nothing had changed. I had changed. So then I was like, what? So then the rest of the forecast, I'm like super like, holy shit, they're like dropping some deep truth here, and I'm starting, like, I'm sitting there like, how did I not feel this before? So then I thought, okay, one of my sisters in the group had suggested an episode of Cosmic Disclosure from Gaia. And I have a Gaia membership, but I never have looked at the Cosmic Disclosure series. But so she recommended, I think it's season 19. So if you have Gaia, 100%, you guys, the truth bombs on this series are just like whoosh. So I went in, and again, I was still in the tea, and the amount of information that came through, I watched, I think, 2 or 3 episodes, was like so clear and so like precise. And I could also see that it looked like this. It looked like if a kaleidoscope. So here, if you go to this, or if you see, it's just like, I think 3 people being interviewed by the host. And the words that they're saying carry one dimension, right? It carries this third dimension of communication. And then if you, like on this tea or the CBD, I could feel and sense what their soul was experiencing and trying to relate in words, and also all of the nuances behind even what they were trying to relate. So I know this is sounding really out there, but I'm trying to help you guys see something. So what I realized is that everything, not, and I mean, we could be talking, these two examples of the astrology and cosmic disclosure are, yes, more esoteric and more on the ascension path, but it's in everything. So even it's in me having this conversation with you, you most likely are listening to this with your head, with your mind, and you're digesting what I'm saying. But on the subtle levels of you and the unconscious levels of you, and actually, I think the one of the guests in Cosmic Disclosure described it like this. Think of your consciousness like an iceberg, and the very tip is what's shown, like what we can see, but the majority of the iceberg is below the surface, right? Like here's the waterline and everything else is below. And every type of activation or communication, we are digesting it from that tip that is showing, right? Like the mind. And what I'm saying is that every single form of communication is being communicated not just from that mind space, but from these subtle levels of depth that we can't see. So like what I'm saying is that each soul, no matter what they're communicating, even if it's unconsciously, is transmitting some serious depth. So what I was trying to and grasp all at the same time is that you can be watching, let's say, a show like Cosmic Disclosure, and if you're watching it from your mind space, you're only going to be able to digest what your mind is capable of wrapping its arms around in that moment. But what's happening on the subtler levels of you, and I would even say it goes all the way to your DNA, is a vibration and or a frequency that is not, it's not words. It's literally a frequency that is like, if you imagine a frequency like it is speaking to the depths of your, how would I just say, the depths of your, not even just soul, but I would say of your experience, because it's not just who you came to be in this world, but everything about you, like your cellular DNA, your tissues, your cells, it all is speaking to you. So in the case of even, again, I kind of talked about this in from my last ayahuasca experience, was when I started going down the thread of a video game. Holy crap, like what is in a video game is so, the depths of control and innuendos and unconscious communication in a video game is beyond the grasp of even our mind space. Now, I would even go as far as to say the creators of video games, like the designers, I don't think that it's a conscious act to do this, because what I could see is that even in this interview style Cosmic Disclosure episode, I don't think that these people consciously are even aware of the depths of what they're transmitting. So I would say even in creativity, like in the case of a video game, the designer doesn't understand the levels that they're transmitting. But what actually is happening is so freaking subtle, and it's like if this is the person, the talking head, right? It goes like doot 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 doot. Like all of this information is being conveyed through this talking head, and you're hearing it with your mind, and you're like looping in with the words. but holy shit, you're only getting like, let's say 5% of what's being conveyed. So the reason that this kind of depth conversation came up is that at the same time I was texting my friend and I was saying that I was watching it, but I was watching the Cosmic Disclosure having taken that tea. And she says, I wish I could have been behind the scenes of that recording to see what else is going on that they're not sharing. And I was like, wait, what? So then we got in a conversation and I was like, oh no, everything's right there laid out for you, but it's totally dependent on your frequency and your openness to receive the subtle layers of what's being said. And she was like, what? And I was like, no, I'm being like totally serious. There is nothing going on behind the scenes. Like, and think of that in every interaction that you have. Nothing's going on behind the scenes that you're not able to pull into. Now, obviously, that requires you to be a complete open vessel and feel into what that communication is. Now, it could be even a conversation with a person, a friend, or whatever, but we are trained to only hear with the mind. So what I'm saying is that is 5% of what's actually being conveyed. Now you can tap into the full expression of what's happening in that moment of conversation or a show you're watching or what have you, and feel into the actual like threads and layers attached to that one conversation. And it all is reliant on how you, like the work that you're doing or the openness that you're allowing into your field. Now, in one of the episodes that I watched, her name is Angeli, is the person that they're interviewing. And she has a lot of extraterrestrial experiences. And she says in one of her biggest activations, she says, I want to say right up front, I was on cannabis. And she said, and I also have some medical issues. So I was on some like prescribed medicine. And it was like, for me, a click, click, click. Why is all of a sudden, at least in California, and I know other states, but cannabis becoming so much of the norm and it's not being looked at as the entry drug? Well, cannabis allows the mind to step back and allows the everything else to step forward. Now, I know through talking with friends and through Richard's experience, it puts him to sleep. Cannabis knocks him out. And we've kind of been playing with it. Like, what I feel is that his vibration is already fairly high, and anything below a sativa blend, like a hybrid or an indica, it calms his system down and he falls asleep. But ultimately, we're getting what we need from the plant medicine. So what I'm suggesting is that playing with that, where your vibration is in correspondence with the cannabis, there's a pocket or a window where you can find your exact window of entry into all that you are, meaning that you can open up enough that you can actually feel into everything that someone is speaking about. So why this is important and why I wanted to talk about it today is that every single thing that we digest is conditioning, is speaking to ourselves, down to like then conditioning us to then go out. Let's say if you're watching a commercial and it says, oh, you should try this, whatever. The next time you go to the store, without even thinking about it, your cells are craving that thing. The reason is because our communication, although we think that it's just coming from the mind, because that's again what we've been taught to believe, right? We only use our mind. It's a much more dangerous, and by dangerous, I mean it's only dangerous if you're in the matrix and you don't see it. But that conditioning on every level of the communication is so intense, and it's it almost like it overrides your neutrality. So in the case of like let's say marketing, I would venture to believe that most marketing, even in the case of where I used to work, it's like capturing the essence of the feeling that you want to convey in your life, right? And so they're targeting the very essence of that longing inside of you that is looking for this feeling. And they know how to do that. It's not through the product. It's through the emotion. Everything comes down to emotion. And we are just kind of weirdly, we don't speak about them. We just are almost in a way like a slave to them when you're in the matrix, without even, or I think that in this episode too, she called it like you're just a ship on the sea at the whims of the ocean. Like literally, you're not in control of anything that your body is holding. It's just bouncing from this wave to that wave, to this wave to that wave. And you don't even think that commercial or that thing that you saw last night on TV even registered. It's like, it's literally become you. And you now unconsciously are looking for that match of vibration. So what I'm trying to explain is that even me speaking to you in this moment, I'm using words, you're hearing words, but I'm conveying something much deeper than my words are able to express. And if I try to like boil it down to an essence of how do I help other people open to this experience, is you have to open your heart space. The heart space feels like a portal to what I would say would be considered gifts, or, our clairs, the things that I believe came into this world to experience, but have all been conditioned to shut down. The more open that you can be to explore what is right in front of you, and slowing down enough to hear in between the words. And I know this is not easy because, even as I was listening to that astrology forecast, I was just listening with my mind, because that's what we do. But it's like if you take a breath and really center yourself, you can actually get to a much deeper place in, let's say, even a teaching, or if you are connecting with someone, whether it even be your partner, like what are they saying to you through the physical voice, and what are they actually saying to you? And what I'm saying is that it feels like there's a new form of communication, or I'm sure it's always been there, but it feels like the veil is coming so thin that, and maybe the matrix is becoming so clear that you can see like, holy crap, I've just been living in the tip, but where's the depth? Where is actually me in the depth of this? And so for me, the lesson or the challenge or the thing is, and actually, now that I think about this was part of my last session with ayahuasca. Out of the mind has no value anymore. The mind doesn't hold the fifth dimension. It feels like it is going to be a feeling. It has to come from the body, and more specifically, the heart. So, I'm not here to push anyone to try any drugs that you're not feeling called to, but understanding that if you feel like you need, or you're wanting to feel what I'm talking about, it could be mushrooms, it could be cannabis. I don't know any other substance that I would say is like a conscious raising plant medicine that is like readily available. But feeling into how does my body feel and what's different? What opens up for me? You know, like I know me on cannabis is like, whew, it's extreme. But I also feel like it's like right there, you know, like it's right there. There's nothing different. Like what I was telling my group of friends is intuition is there. The cannabis just takes your doubt away from that intuition. But the emotion, the feeling, the sensing, it's all right there. Can you get there and work with it so deeply that you start to see with new eyes? And then it, like, I felt like, holy crap, like there's so much information to learn on so many more enlightening depths that I think that we've really only just tapped the surface. And I don't know the answers, but what I'm suggesting is that you start to play with your own consciousness and really, I mean, you can do that through meditation. The only downside is that then you're in a controlled environment where if you're able to kind of move throughout your in this case, that day where you are experiencing outside influences and able to see how are you different, I think it's going to be really helpful in knowing where you're going, you know, like knowing what you're capable of and knowing that it's right there. Like there is nothing, you know, so far away or so far up here that it's not in our body. It is us. Like there is nothing outside of us that's coming for us. It is all kind of come from within your own portal of your heart. So open up, let it in, and have an amazing holiday.